All right, good afternoon. Well, I have some good news to share. When I had set up this title, I had seen that the AI was at badge 7, which is a significant improvement over where we had been before. Last time we had given it 300 million steps, and it got stuck at the fourth badge, basically trying to get into Saffron City. And this time it had actually made it through the entirety of the game, getting all the way to the Elite Four and winning, as that's what we've defined as like beating the game. And it did it in about 138 million steps. So if I can pull this over here and it can display nicely, it's going to be bunched up a little bit. But this is the outcomes here. So this is the total number of steps here, 138 million.6 steps. It went on average about 400 steps per second the whole way through. And so it took about 3.5 days to actually get through and complete the run through of Pokemon Red. I had given it 1 billion steps to try and finish, just based on what happened last time with the 300 million, and thinking that maybe it needed longer. It was able to make it all the way through the game. You can see there's an event here for Lance. There's Blaine, there's Lance. So all the agents had made it through in beating Lance. And then a couple of them had started to beat the rival battle afterwards. And then once that is actually completed, that is when it stops. So 2 were able to do that. A couple were still going through the process when it had hit the ending here. So, if we had let it continue on beyond the point of becoming the champion, then I'm confident that all of them would have gotten through here. You can see it here. 1.1 out of 5 basically on the points here. So the first couple had beaten it, like I said, and the others were in the process of doing so. I'm going to scroll down here because it made some nice graphics here in kind of showing you how it had progressed through the run. So like this is an idea of how effectively the process was running the whole way through versus the peak. So it started out the best, quickly tapered off. There were some issues. It kind of stabilized that first night. And then picks back up. You can see yesterday when I had streamed, there was also a big chunk decrease in terms of performance of the SPS. That was when I was doing the big data bowl work. So running some models there where it just kind of run through. The agent steps, that should be a linear line up. Learning rate will be flat across all of them. This is the final Elite Four champion events ends. So the final, once it hits this, it ends. So we don't see that. But you can kind of see generally where these are. These aren't in any specific order in terms of what's here, but where they had gotten the game. So you can see fairly early on, it had gotten, completing Mount Moon, beating Misty, beating Surge, and then took a while. And then where is Erica in this list? I'm trying to find her because that was also, here we go. So from Surge to Erica, there's a nice gap here. Basically the better part of an evening and day. And then continuing on afterwards, getting access to the oscilloscope so that way it can go ahead and beat Ghost Marowak there. It had actually done that after defeating Koga. And then continuing all the way through, you can see it even skipped some of the trainers along the way. You can see here, not long after it had gotten through the Rocket Hideout and get the oscilloscope, it had gone and beaten Ghost Marowak after that. You can also see here, this is after it had gotten the Pokeflute, but it had beaten both of the Snorlaxes. And you can see here the second battle with the rival. So already towards the end game, this is on the way to Victory Road. So it took a long time basically for it to figure out where the last gym was, because it's already an area that it already visited earlier in the game, right? And there was no reward there, so it just said, "No, there's no, there's nothing for it to gain. You can't get into that area." I believe when you go, there's somebody waiting in front of the gym So it's not really a consideration. It's just trying to figure that out until eventually it stumbles back in there. And then once it does that, the other agents know, oh, hey, there's some reward that we should go capture, and then go into that and through it. So then going through a few things here, you can see even a few of them had restarted their thing and gone back to the beginning. So what else is there? These are all the checks for the badges along the way. So it did make returns back to Victory Road. For those, what else is in here? Rocket Game Corner. This is the card key. One of the areas that it did skip was the Safari Zone. I know the people who are working on this are actually currently working on getting that implemented to it, getting through the Safari to getting the gold teeth, which then allows it to, what is that? I think that's Fly that's in there. So not particularly stopping us along the way. Again, you can see here, Scope, Pokeflu, not long after one another. This is when it gets the bike voucher, it quickly goes to turn this in. So it doesn't keep the voucher very long in terms of the list of things. All in all, there were a few hangups, but for the most part, it had flown through the beginning stages. I think it was by something like 30 million steps. At one point I checked in, it had already beaten Surge and was on its way to, it was fighting the trainers in Erica's gym. So it made really good progress quickly at the beginning, and then spent quite a bit of time, not quite a bit of time. I expected it to spend more time here getting the rocket hideout done, but it had gone there fairly quickly. So you can see here, this time it had actually gotten through it before it even beat Erica. So it properly did the rocket hideout, then it beat Erica, and then it continued on its way to things like, yeah, it did Marowak even before attempting those. But way more progress than last time, whereas we quickly got to badge 4, and then it had just petered out. It didn't figure out the tunnels or anything like that along the way. The nice thing is for us, like some of the challenging puzzles are not as challenging for the AI. So there's, what is that, Rock Tunnel is an area that's challenging for us because we need flash. But in this case, the agent just kind of moves through until it eventually makes it through the area there. And frankly, I was kind of surprised, 138 million steps to beat the whole game. Now, this is working off of a state where it had already been beaten. So it kind of knows, well, it starts from the beginning in terms of the training, but it's known that it could be beat. And frankly, for me, 138 million steps, I think, is really fast. I think looking at the save state, it was something like, it was like 2.5 hours of actual playtime on those for the ones that had beaten it. So if you're thinking like the world record for some of these is like 90 minutes. So it's come, it would approach those if we had even done more optimizations here, but just trying to get through was the key point of all this, right? And if we want to go back to improve this more, we could. Personally, in terms of my view on this progress or on this project, is that it's more or less going to be done. I'm probably going to run through it one more time where I'm going to have the agents record their video along the way, so that way I can use that to create a video, just kind of talking about this, the things we learned along the way, some of the challenges. And then if I'm going to spend some time on this, I want to take some of the learnings from this and transfer it over to the other version where it has more of the random exploration and less of the, I'm almost going to call them shortcuts. Give me a moment while I take a drink. Sorry. So now that I understand it better, I think calling some of these shortcuts is in a way kind of shortchanging what's actually being done here. Talking more with the developers, they had hard-coded in some of the things like the strength puzzles to actually speed up progress here in terms of actually completing the game, because the idea was to try and have a continuing learning all the way through. So things that are programmed in here are like the Victory Road strength puzzle, giving it the exact solution once it gets to that area on where to move to solve the puzzle. And that's so that the agents don't end up getting blocked or soft locked out of the solution there. That's also why they shut off the random encounters on Victory Road, is to let it explore the area more fully instead of fighting some of the more challenging Pokemon along the way. Looking through everything here, frankly, 138,625,000 steps is way beyond what I had in terms of previous iterations on this project. The version that had made it to Mount Moon had made it there. It was like something like 30 million steps, 33 million steps in training to get to Misty, and that only had like something like a 25% success rate there, where it was getting crushed at Mount Moon in terms of the fights along the way. So I do want to go back and look at this and look at the video and see what did it do in Mount Moon that could be done differently on the other versions. I know this version starts with Bulbasaur as the main Pokemon and has a few others, I think, automatically added to its party to kind of drive it through. Whereas the version that we have, or the other version that I've been doing, it only starts with the starter Pokemon, and we let it catch things along the way. Another thing that this one does is it gives it infinite money to avoid some of the things like being able to purchase here the fresh water, the lemonade, and the soda pop, because those ends up being a blocker. If it doesn't have the money at the time, it will never figure out some of the ways into, what was that, like Saffron City? When it goes to Rocket Hideout, if it doesn't have the money to buy the things from the machine, it never then would be able to proceed further. So there's, I don't want to call them guardrails. There are some of those steps put in the game to ensure that it completes the process. And I want to take some of those learnings back to the other version and see if we can help it to learn with less of those guardrails in place. Overall, I think this was a great outcome for what we did. And I think there were a few things that I had started to copy over to the other version that would be incredibly useful. So pull up the code here. When I tried to run the other version after I implemented the wild encounters, it was basically erroring out on the startup. So I need to go through and take a look at those to see specifically what was happening there, to get a better idea on what I had done incorrectly, because I know there's some differences between this version and the other in terms of how they implement certain things. You can see here things like automatically, once it receives cut, to kind of go through the menus to make sure that the Bulbasaur or Ivysaur, whatever it's evolved into, is taught cut. Same thing for Surf. Once it has Lapras, it will automatically teach it Surf. And then I forget who they give strength to in the party, but things to like how to actually use those correctly instead of spending time exploring or giving the game things to explore and how to do that. So, for example, if I come here, I thought this was pretty interesting. This is the map of the run. I want to zoom out a little bit if I can. So this is the very beginning of the game. Here is this is like the very first training epic here. You can see this heat map gives you an idea of like where's it getting the most reward in terms of the point here. And you can see this is when when Professor Oak drags you to the lab and then speaks to him. This is where like it gives you Pokemon, you get event rewards. So that's why this area is in the darker red, and then you can see it goes out into the light blue of areas where you're not really getting much reward here. So you can see once it gets to this corner, there's no reward left for it to gain because it's already explored out the map. And you see similar things here where there's some exploration. Like this is different. I think you can kind of see as you move around and get away from these, there's less rewards. And then this is the very first epic. And then if I go 100 in, it'll regenerate and it'll give you an idea of what the map starts to look like. So now at 100 steps, you can see on that step, there's nothing more for it to gain from being in Professor Oak's lab. So it's starting to go out. Really, the only rewards that we're getting here were exploration, and that's why all of these are the blue color instead of being the red color as before. And then if we keep going through this, I want to jump. I want to say around the 700 or 800 mark was when it had gotten to doing some of the gyms. So let's see. Where are we at 700 mark? Why is there nothing on the map? Ooh, that's already Saffron City, right? Yeah. Maybe I need to go back a little bit. Let's see. So here we go. At 600, you can see it's now started to map out the path of getting through to Viridian Forest. So there's some rewards here. Along the way, you can kind of see, oh, well, it learned to cut. So it went back and cut out this bush. There's other things along the way here. You can cut this. What is this? Is this the Diglett tunnel? There's something over here. Oh, I think it's path through maybe. This is Diglett tunnel here. Going through, it gets a bunch of rewards. Once it gets closer to the gym, right? You're getting into there. That this starts to kind of give you an idea of where is the agent getting the most reward in the steps along the way. You can see here, it eventually figures out the path through Mount Moon. Most of the reward are in these early areas because this is where you're capturing some new Pokemon, but then you're continuing to kind of quickly run your way through that area. Then continuing on, go in, doesn't even do Misty's gym pathing. Okay, here we go. A bunch of rewards. Which Poke Center is this? It's the Poke Center here at the Silphco Tower. So I'm guessing by now it had started to, get the rewards here. It had not figured out how to beat Ghost Marowak because it didn't have the item yet, most likely. And that's why you're not making it up to the top here. But then if we go, I think by around 1,000, we had it all mapped out. Yeah, you can see here, it's going through the Poke Corner. Here you go. It's gone through Surge's gym. Still hasn't fully completed the tower in terms of Ghost Marowak, but we have kind of an idea of the paths that it went all the way through. You can see here, it still hadn't figured out the Saffron gym because it's not allowed in there yet because it hasn't defeated Marowak, but you're starting to see some of that progress. And then if we jump here, we've got 2,100 total steps. So this is at the 2,000 mark. You can see it still hadn't figured out Giovanni. And then this is the final state before it gets into Victory Road here. So we don't have the one of where it maps through Victory Road, but that's the final state for it to be. You can see it's gone through there. It's figured out that, oh, now it can go into the gym and actually do that. So does and gets the reward for the gym here. Interesting here is that it quickly navigates the ocean parts, tries not to really hang around too long in terms of the return part. I believe there's a few trainer battles in here, but then it figures out that there's a couple paths here for who's this Blaine in terms of his gym. This is the one where you can either talk to the trainer for a fight, or you can just do the machines to bypass a lot of things here. But you can see how it got here is it didn't even go surfing over this way. It's just picked up over here. So all in all, like I said, I want to run through this again, kind of recording the video of how it, because there's an option to save a recording of how it's going through the space. I need to make sure that I have enough space here on my laptop for that, because I only have 250 gigs. And I think when I kick this off, I already have like 30 gigabytes or so left. So I want to make sure that I can record the video for all, I think I do 24 agents going all the way through the game. So if it's taking them each, was it like about 3 hours of playtime, that video is going to get quite large. So I want to make sure that I have enough space carved out for that to run all the way through, and then take some of these and transport them over to the transport the findings over to the original stable baselines version and see if I can get the same outcome there. So relatively short stream for today. Just wanted to show out that we have actually beat the game, and then let it run through another time for recording, and then probably have, well, we'll have less frequent sessions on this because it will take longer. This one took 3.5 days for it to run through in its entirety. So if I'm saving the videos, it's going to take even longer. So it's probably about a week until that run would finish. And then transferring the things over to the stable baselines version. What I'll do is I will we'll do that on Thursday for that, and then afterwards we'll slow down the frequency of the stream for it. It'll just be kind of a check-in up until I can put together the kind of full video describing everything in a way that can be easier understood. Include things like the maps, the videos of what it's actually doing along the way. So it's great that we had managed to beat the game. Now we're going to work to make sure things are recorded along the way, and then work on transferring things over to the stable baselines version, and then work on putting this together into kind of a more complete video. I know we've been kind of live, or going through all these live sessions on coding or changes that we're making. Now we can consolidate all of that together, hopefully in an easy to understand video of what actually is going on. So we'll explain like the technical side of reinforcement learning, where how does it do it? And we can show things like those heat maps to show how the agent is being rewarded along the way. And then we can also work through transferring some of those changes over to stable baselines, which has like a set limit before it resets its versions, and try and see if that one would make it all the way through, and see how well the learning process can change along the way. So that's all for today. I'm going to make some adjustments to the settings here to clear up space and record the video along the way. And then when we meet on Thursday, we'll do a checkpoint. We'll copy some of the things over to the stable baselines version to try and implement there, and then work through once we've got that going. Once this next run would finish, we can kick off that one and let it go. Again, being in this environment where it's just a man with a laptop can still do a lot compared to really needing a whole AWS cluster for this. I think when Peter had done his original video, he had said that he had like $1,000 in AWS credits burnt through just to try and make it to Cerulean City. So we didn't have that same thing here, but it's basically been running on my laptop for the past 2.5 months to try and get it going, or try and get this to a point where it would finish. And so think about in terms of the hours that it run, 2.5 months times, on average, I had 24 agents running at the same time. You're talking about, you're already a couple years of training time to actually get through and beat the game. And then some of that was also helped along by the fact that the most recent version is using one that somebody already beat the game with. It's not learning it from scratch. And that would be kind of the final state for this, is taking the key learnings away from here and getting it back to that stable baselines version, so that way it can try and run that on its own and hopefully be able to make it through the game with some lesser guardrails in there, but just trying to understand how it would perform. Because on that version, if you have a save state with a good outcome, then it can go pretty quickly through the process here. So I do have the save states here. That's these files from the run. And there's I want to take one of these and transfer it over and see how well it does the same thing, or if it will just completely mess up the process. So a few things to try out from here, and hopefully I will see you all on Thursday when we can transfer some of this over to stable baselines, and we'll get the video recording runs started after this. So I will, if you're seeing this, please leave a comment on anything else you would find interesting. Another thing I'm thinking of in the future is if we can take this over and go to something like, what was it? Silver, I think, was Generation 2, and then Emerald, because I think those are all covered on the Game Boy. So we might be able to transfer those learnings there as well. And that would be the idea for where to go kind of further down the road. So thank you all for coming, and I will see you guys on Thursday, where we will have more updates on the version running with video.